What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mobile video. So today we are going to be comparing the 3 legendary GKS skins. So before I start with this video, I want you guys to understand, especially with the Tactical Unicorn, I had to borrow that skin from my friend, so I do have very limited footage, so I'm gonna have to be quick when, describing the Tactical Unicorn. So just something to keep in mind, because I personally do not own the skin, and honestly, I don't even plan on buying it anytime soon, unless maybe it's in a bundle, but even then, I'm not even too sure. So I was kind of holding off making a comparison video for the GKS skins, because at some point, and given the fact that GKS were given like recent buffs, I was assuming that, very soon there would be like a 3rd legendary skin. It took a while, but we finally got the Mystic cards, and I could finally make a video like this. And I was finally able to, I guess, import the legendary comparison template instead of just, talking about it mostly. You can finally see the results and everything once more. So yeah, like ever since I updated my video editor, I haven't been able to do that, but now I finally found a way to do so. So yeah, we're back to the old video template. So the first one, obviously in chronological order, is going to be the GKS Tactical Unicorn. So unfortunately, I did not own this, but my friend was happy to, just share the weapon until I had enough footage to record. So yes, the GKS Tactical Unicorn, actually this is kind of like my first time using it in a more lengthy way, because typically I do pick it up sometimes, but obviously I kind of like die right after, so I don't really ever have time to record footage of like a certain weapon blueprint that I don't have. But the GKS Tactical Unicorn, I finally have a chance to review it. So anyways, the GKS Tactical Unicorn, I believe at first it was like a reactive camo, but from what my friend told me, it's no longer a reactive. I think it's more of just a simple legendary skin. But I'm not really too 100% sure about that. I wasn't really observing the gun that much. But based on the effects that it has, especially for a gun skin that came out very early within the game's life cycle, it is actually pretty good. I mean, the iron sight is, well, it used to be worse, but they kind of, refined it, made it more viewable. So it could obviously be a little bit more affordable the next time they had it around. I'm not really that sure if it was ever like in the For You draw, but I do understand that the Tactical Unicorn is probably one of the more rare legendary skins. But really quickly, the iron sight for the Tactical Unicorn is a pretty basic one. Like I said, it used to be a lot different, but I would say out of the 3, it probably is maybe the best one. It's because it's the least obstructing out of the 3. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to agree with me on that. But if it had the old iron sight, it definitely would be the worst one. The death effect, of course, since this is a early legendary skin, it's not really that great. It's more of just like rainbow confetti coming out, and that's basically it. It doesn't really have anything else. Like, it's just a little cloud, a confetti thing with just like rainbow colors. As for the shooting sounds, it does have a unique sound when you are firing the weapon, but it also does have a reload sound that is pretty unique, but at the same time it's very faint, so it's not really that noticeable. Also, when it comes to its physical design, I would say that it is pretty unique, especially since the other ones don't really have a more of a cutesy design. It's basically a unicorn and it actually came from Black Ops 4. I used to actually have that Mastercraft, and honestly it was a pretty cool skin at that. Of course, I couldn't use the iron sight because I think in that game the iron sight's still the original one. But yeah, it has like basically the shape of a unicorn with just rainbows around it and just the wings in the back. But anyways, like changing the structure like that is actually a pretty good thing. But if I were to rank it on, like, comparing it to the 3, I would say this is actually 2nd place. So after a year later, we also received the GKS Wanderer. I believe this was like a year 2 legendary skin. So it's a little bit more adaptive. It's not as great in terms of like physical appearance. If anything, it's more of a mechanical thing, but at the same time, you take off the camo, it doesn't really look that vibrant. So, having like diamond or something does make it a little bit better. But if we're just comparing it based on just default skins, I would say out of all the appearances, this is probably the worst. The effects itself isn't really that great either. You do have like that little flashing electricity that's on the back of the iron sight, as well as just electricity just coursing around the wires of the weapon. But overall, I mean, like, they are pretty vibrant, but I wouldn't say that they're the absolute best. So if I were to rank it on these, like based on these 3 legendary skins, I would say maybe as well it would probably be the worst. And this is really going based off what I most likely believe that a lot of people would also believe as well. So yeah, I don't really think a lot of people are gonna be a fan of like animations like this. I'm pretty sure like the Tactical Unicorn would probably be a much more fitting choice for them. But in my personal opinion, like the effects are very colorful, they're very vibrant, they're very, you know, very bluish. But at the same time, I wouldn't say like out of the three, they're the absolute best. So now for the death effect, that's one thing that I would say this weapon trumps all the others the most. So the death effect, I have always loved the death effect. It just basically turns the enemy into a blue revolving cube, and they just basically fade away, or they just disappear. But I don't know, like even when you're dying from the GKS Wanderer, like it's still a sight to behold. And you could kind of tell that the devs worked like really hard on this one compared to the other ones. So if I were to rank it, it would definitely be first out of the three, for sure. So now we get to the more complicated part, which is the sound effects and the iron sight. So the sound effects, the reload animation isn't really that, or I guess the reload sound isn't really that noticeable. I think it's more of the basic version. It might be slightly altered, but it's not something I really noticed. But when it comes to its shooting sounds and its, you know, suppressed sounds, I have noticed that it does kind of like have the original GKS sound from back in the day, before they changed it. That's one thing. If you do kind of like miss the old GKS sounds, you could always just use this to kind of make up for that. But in terms of its like unsuppressed effect, I would say that's where it kind of shines a little bit more, because it is far more noticeable and it's very loud, to say the least. But I'm not really that sure. I mean, it's very hard to compare these, comparing it to, you know, the Tactical Unicorn or even the Mystic cards itself, because they're just really close to each other in terms of like rankings. So now for even the more complicating part, which is the iron sight. And like I said, this is another thing that all three GKSs kind of like have the same advantage for the most part. It's more or less the same, with the spike being a little bit bigger. However, it is a little bit more intrusive on the bottom side of the iron sight, you know, just on the bottom parts. You know, the GKS probably has the most clear one, but out of all of them, I'll probably place this like around second or first. So now we move on to the final blueprint, which is the GKS Mystic cards, which released earlier today as of recording this video. And this one is actually a pretty tough one to review as well, because like I said, I mean, most of the GKS legendary blueprints are kind of on par with each other. I mean, the iron sight, I mean, it's very hard to tell, because the iron sight, all of them are really good. But the thing is that which one is the most helpful? And given that the GKS Mystic cards has, you know, aim shake right now, it kind of does ruin it for the iron sight a little bit. But just let's pretend that the aim shake isn't there. I would say that maybe this is like third place, possibly second place when it comes to at least the iron sight. But when it comes to its effects, I mean, they do kind of shine a little bit. They're a lot more, I guess, advanced compared to the GKS Tactical Unicorn. And it's always a constant thing. Those cards are constantly coming out, but whenever you do get a kill, you see more cards just spreading out like that. Again, it's kind of hard to tell, like comparing it to the GKS Tactical Unicorn and this, it's a very close, like, it's a very close competition right here. But honestly, if I were to say, I would say that this is probably first place, only because of the fact that it does have a good physical animation alongside a sound. Another cool thing about it is that when you do press that spade, you actually, that's how you eject the magazine, which is pretty cool. As for its sound effects, it does have its own shooting sounds as well. It's a lot more pronounced compared to the GKS. Well, actually, all of them are pretty well pronounced. But I would say of all of them, I would say this is probably the most pronounced. So I would give it first place when it comes to sound effects. And I'm only saying that this is first place because the reload effect, or I guess the reload sound effect, is also very different. It has the sound of a casino machine. And I know you could say there is a reload sound for the Tactical Unicorn, but it's not as noticeable as this one. This one's noticeable right away. As for the death effect, again, like the death effect is kind of subpar for the most part, but it definitely beats the Tactical Unicorn, that's for sure. But at the same time, it can be a little bit intrusive. It kind of gets in your way. But if we're, you know, judging just based on how well it looks, I would say that it takes second place for sure, with, you know, the Tactical Unicorn being behind and the GKS Wanderer being in first. And finally, for the physical design, this was actually a tough one to compare because I want to give it first place, but I know a lot of you guys are going to get pissed off at me if I don't, because I know a lot of you guys have some very favorable opinions on the GKS Tactical Unicorn because, again, it's an iconic type of legendary skin. It's very memorable, but the GKS Mystic cards is kind of like more of a new thing, but at the same time, out of all of them, it changes the gun's appearance the most. So I might have to piss you guys off here, but it's definitely going to have to be in first place. So anyways, here are the final results for the comparison. Obviously, with the physical design of the GKS Unicorn, it's pretty good, but obviously the Mystic cards, it changes the gun the most. That's why I decided to choose that one to be first place. As for the animations, like I said, Tactical Unicorn's pretty good, especially for it being, you know, the first legendary, meaning that, you know, it came out around the first year of COD Mobile. But I would say that for the animations, you know, the clock spinning around the gun, it being physical, as well as like the cards, as well lighting up, it has to come out at first as well. As for the death effects, you know, surprisingly, the GKS does kind of like take the win here, but as for everything else on that gun, it pretty much takes a huge L. As for the sound effects, again, I decided to choose the Mystic card since it is the most pronounced, you know, with its firing sounds as well as the reload sounds. Tactical Unicorn, again, the reload sound is there, but it's not as noticeable and it's less pronounced. But as for the GKS Wanderer, again, it kind of does fall short. I don't think it's a sound that a lot of people do like. And as for the Iron Sight, the Tactical Unicorn obviously takes first place since it's the least obstructive, and the GKS Wanderer takes second, and Mystic Cards takes third. So anyways, I know this is kind of like a controversial result thing that I have here, but that's the best that I can do without being biased. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be pissed off for me not putting the Tactical Unicorn at the very top, but again, with its animations and its design, it's very, very primitive because it came out within the first few months of the game. And now here we are with the Mystic cards that came out basically in a time where, you know, legendary skins are a lot more advanced. They have a lot more effects. And yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I had to kind of like just say that the Mystic cards is probably the better skin. But of course, the aim shake with it is kind of holding it back anyways. But of course, that's going to go away at some point. But yeah, as of right now, that's kind of like the only thing that's dragging the skin down a bit. But overall, its effects and its design overall is just absolutely amazing, in my personal opinion. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.